What's up, guys? Iceman here. Welcome to another garage video. So, I was thinking back on the first time that I made grief in Diablo 2. Eth, Lo, Mal, Ral, in a phase blade on my paladin. This was many years ago. I remember I busted my ass. Blood, sweat, and tears on that guy. And I don't remember exactly how I got all the runes in the end. I found some. I traded for things. I could have found them all, but I traded. Cut the journey short a little bit, if you will. And I made it. And how rewarding that was, how amazing it was. My paladin, coupled with zeal and fanaticism, just swatted the toad out of all my enemies. Do you guys have a similar memory? I remember walking around my house, my parents' house at the time. I was young, man. I was still a teenager. But I'd walk around and I'd imagine I had that grief in my hand. And you know how the paladin attacks? It goes. I would go around the house doing that. I could almost feel the power that mighty endgame item possessed. But once I achieved that status, and I remember how epic my paladin looked. The shiny armor. I can't remember what helm he had. I wanted Crown of Ages, but I don't think I had it. And I didn't use G-Phase back then either. What helm was he wearing? I can't remember, man. This is when I was back from college, all right? It was the summer I was back from college. I was like 20 years old. Just trying to get the facts straight here. I can't remember what helm he had on, but nonetheless, it didn't take long after that for me to be like, huh, what's next? I was able to kill the shit out of anything in my path. So it was short-lived after that, if you will. I was like, okay, well, maybe I need a barbarian. I was like, maybe that is where it's at. Because I'd see a barbarian running around with frenzy, just blasting through things. I was like, this paladin, it is a little slow. I mean, it's single target, basically. The zeal can hit the ones around you, but it's single target. So is the barbarian, but at least he moves faster, and hell, he's using both of his hands. So I made a barbarian. I was like, maybe that's where the joy is. There was just something so empty after having that powerful weapon in hand. The best weapon in the game, many would argue. especially for a Zeal Paladin. I was at the top, man, as far as I see it. It felt empty and alone. There's no longer anything to strive for or to chase. There was no longer that anticipation. It's gone. So I made a barbarian and started leveling him up. Got to level 70, 80. Gave him the grief. He had that epic grief in one hand. My paladin had a fortitude, I think that's what it was. And I gave that to the barbarian as well. I was busting my ass and I was like, okay, what's next? I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is fun. I still need stuff. This is fun. And it was fun. Running the Trav, running the Bloody Foothills, running the Pit. But I started thinking, I was like, it's going to take a minute to get those items. But I was having a blast. I was like, shoot, I could get Last Wish, even though later I found it sucked. It's like the most expensive item. Or Breath of the Dying, which is great. Or Death, Rune Word, which is amazing as well. It's like, wow, this is a great time. But something started to seep in. I was like, if I had that item in hand, imagine how powerful I'd feel. You see? It started to seep in a little bit. And then I thought, imagine how amazing I'd look. Glorified. I'd be so powerful. I'd have the grief in one hand and the breath of the dying in the other hand. And I thought to myself, how epic that would look. Those around me would envy me. Just as I have envied them, I fear. Yes. You see? The poison novas would be emitting all around me. Because that is such a visual effect. Everybody knows you have a breath of the dying. Especially in those days. People weren't using the carry-on ring as much. And you knew if they didn't have Andy's helm on. So if they were casting them poison novas as a frenzy barbarian, it was almost certain they had a breath of the dying. Especially if they casted it like every second. With carry-on, you're not casting it every second. It's a pretty low chance on cast, isn't it? On hit, or on getting hit. So you're not casting it. Just the shit. It's not just constant like that. It looks awesome. Granted, it's not very practical. Maybe if you're in the Blood War, killing Devilkins or something, or the Cold Plains. Killing those rogues who are now men. But, yeah, you looked amazing. And I was like, wow, this is such a journey. This is such a good time. And I started getting excited. I was like, wow, what if I did have that? I could join public games and people will see me just kicking ass. And yeah, they're not nearly as fast as a Javazan, a Hammerdin, or any sorcerers for that matter. But still, you get style points if you're a frenzy barbarian. People give you a nod. They're like, damn, okay. He's actually able to kill some shit. Relatively quickly, considering that he's a barbarian. Or a melee class for that matter. So you know what I did, man? I went on one of those websites. I think I remember what it was called. I started looking around. And I noticed they had all these items for sale. I knew about these websites. So I started scrolling down the list. And I saw, this is earlier on in the ladder. This is when Diablo 2 was really hot. There were bots all over the place, but probably not what it is today. The items are still pretty expensive. So I saw a Breath of the Dying, and it was like 80 bucks for the cheapest rolled one, right? It had like a range. It said, you'll get a Breath of the Dying that's the 350 to 370% roll. They're all made in superior items. They're probably all botted and duped or something. I don't know, but so maybe it was 365 to 385. I can't remember. I was like, whoa. I was like, okay. It'll save me a lot of time if I buy this, obviously. I can just have it today. I don't have to be looking for it anymore. Even though this is a form of escapism, playing this game, I'm choosing to do this to find some joy, which is why I'm here. But with that, on a side note, I'll achieve this a little faster. So I bought it. Kind of a sinking feeling when I gave it to my character. I popped it on, I was like, yeah. And I looked at it. I was like, this is it, huh? I mean, it still felt pretty cool. Went outside town, killed some things, blasted poison novas everywhere. Went to the Chaos Sanctuary, started killing stuff. It was a damn good time for but a moment. But it wasn't quite as good as I was expecting. It wasn't quite that journey, that striving, that knowing how high the ceiling is, that reaching, you know what I mean? It wasn't that reaching. In fact, there wasn't much reaching to do at all. There wasn't much anticipation at all. So I thought to myself, maybe I bought the wrong item. I was like, I mean, this is Breath of the Dying, though. Look at all the life leech, the mana leech. It's ethereal. Looks awesome. It's in a big old Colossus sword. Or blade. I can't remember which. I think it's blade. Colossal blade? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, I thought maybe I bought the wrong item. I mean, granted, it doesn't have Crushing Blow. It doesn't have Deadly Strike. Did I cut myself short here? Why is this really not what I was expecting? So within like a day, I was back on that website. I started scrolling down. I was like, Death's got to be cheaper. I mean, it's not as expensive in terms of runes. I saw Death on there. I started reading up on the forums. People are saying Death and Grief is awesome, this and that, or Death and Breath of the Dying is the best top tier thing. Everybody has something different to say, you know what I mean? And of course, it's all situational. So, I decided I'm going to go with Death. I was like, I could couple it with my Grief, try it out. I could couple it with the Breath of the Dying, and we'll see how things go from there. I bought the Death. It was like 50 bucks. I was like, all right, here we go. Threw it on my character. I was like, well, I got to go to public games. Go to public games. Try to get people to notice me, as usual. Start killing shit in the chaos. Yeah, it was a great combo. BOTD and Death are a great combo. It might be one of my favorites, even considering how godly Grief really is. But again, I was like, oh, okay. I had a good time for an hour, maybe less. I started thinking, oh, I'm in deep already. I've already bought shit. I already opened Pandora's box, if you will. Maybe I'll buy one more. Started to get bored. Started to get really bored. I was like, I need Last Wish. Maybe that's where the joy is. I mean, it has an aura. It has the might aura on an item. How awesome is that? Especially in those days. And it casts Life Tap. You're gonna be invincible. And shit, it has Fade on it. Started to do some research. Wow, the damage isn't that great. Could make it into Colossus Blade. No, I'm gonna have to repair it. And I know how expensive it is to repair rune words. Every 5 Chaos runs, I'm gonna be repairing the damn thing. And no, I don't want to have to find 1,000 Ral runes. Alright? It's like, I want that shit to be indestructible. So I took the hit. Made it into Phase Blade. Shitty damage, but it was indestructible. And it attacked pretty damn fast. Popped that shit on, the aura goes around his feet. I was like, oh, but then didn't last much longer. That died very, very quickly. From that point, I was like I went outside, killed a couple things. It's like, okay. I remember not long at all after that, probably within a day or two, I shut down Diablo. I pushed my chair back into my desk. I stood up, and I was like, I'm bored. I need to go find something else to entertain myself with. It was game over. I reached the ceiling as far as I see it, and it was game over. So I realized, man, kind of. I think that's the continual chore, in fact. Not sure if I've realized it. But similar to real life, Diablo is an escape from the real world. So are games in general. And like the real world, this is a spiritual journey. If you were rich as a toad, if you were given all the world, all the money, all the resources, control of it all, how do you think you'd be? Be honest with me, man. Yeah, you think that you'd be good with it, huh? Oh yeah, you think you'd be having a great time for ages to come. I'm not so sure if that'd be the case. You know how those lotto winners, they always turn into crackheads? Like 90% of the time? And almost 100% of the time, they say their life is worse than before they won it? They just cut to the chase, man. They got to the ceiling quickly. Without earning it. Without blood, sweat, and tears. But only with real life, you can't escape it. Well, you can, but if you're still here, you haven't escaped it. There are diminishing returns as you get closer to the ceiling, even though the ceiling, you could argue, is you can't reach it, which, yeah, you can't reach it. But there are diminishing returns as you get way up there. So you really start to have to fill yourself. And you realize you're better off in the journey itself, in the striving for and the anticipation and the work. But I just want you guys to ask yourself a question. Why do you want to make Infinity or Enigma in Diablo 2, for example? I think I know why I want to make it. Because it makes me feel so powerful. And it makes those around me envy me. That's why I want to make it. So, you see the problem here with racing to the end? And how there seems to be that balance in the middle. When the ceiling is way up there and you haven't reached it, but you know it's there. It's the striving and anticipation, I'm thinking, is where it's at. Makes me almost hope that I never find a Burr rune. That I never find a Jaw rune. Fuck that ethereal base! Giant Thresher, Great Poleaxe, Thresher, Cryptic Axe. They can go to hell. Nay, it is the striving where that rhythm is. All right? And the problem is, with Diablo 2, for example, there is a ceiling. Ironically, way up there is Infinity, the rune word. But once you reach Infinity and Enigma, it's pretty much over. I mean, yeah, there's little subtle things you could do, but the vast amount of that striving is gone and finished. It's almost as if it's better if those things are there to attain, but we rarely ever are able to reach it. And maybe it's best for many that we never quite do. Because what if they weren't there? We'd strive for the next best thing. And what if we were to attain that? The game would be over. It seems to me that the ceiling needs to be nearly impossible to reach. Now, granted, they could add expansions and get us back the next ladder, but you see what I'm saying? And that's the thing when it comes to, and I know you dogs might not like this, but some of you got it. I know some of you are with me on this. And again, in this striving, it's blood, sweat, and tears. But behold, I bring to you a mystery. To those who have ears, let them hear. There will not always be blood, sweat, and tears. All right? But in this current state, those are inhibitors, perhaps. They're factors. But it's in that right now where that center is found, all right? So here's the thing. I mean, it's almost to the point where you could count it all as loss. If I drop a low rune. Fuck! One step closer I am to the ceiling. One step closer I am to game over. I'd almost be half tempted to go sell it to Chartsy. Maybe he would have better use for it. And the journey, the grind, the spiritual journey can continue. But you see, I'm playing Diablo. We're involved in these forms of entertainment because we get some joy out of it, right? Like, I think I take X amount of time in the day or the week and be like, I'm going to play Diablo for this amount of time this week because it brings me joy. That's why I'm playing it. Obviously, if I get to the ceiling, I'm going to have to find something else to bring me joy because it's going to be game over. I could show it off all I want, or try to PK as often as I can, or duel as often as I can with the GG on Game Gear. But sooner or later, it's going to lose its luster. And all those things are driven by pride anyway, which in itself is what's making me want to reach the damn ceiling, which in itself is apparently to my detriment. Gotta shed that shit, dog. Almost makes me never want to find those items. But let me know in the comments your thoughts on these matters, and like this video if you guys will. Hit the thumbs up button. Appreciate you guys for coming by. What up, dog? So the video cut out for some reason, but you guys get the gist of it, right? So if you will, like the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the page, become a channel member or a patron, and peace be with you.